All right. So we are, Hoss, just to kind of catch you up, we are this week, I paired them up with accountability partners. So they are helping each other with their accountability trackers and the activities that they're participating in every day and helping them brainstorm how to get past some of their challenges. And this has been a really great group. Lots of activity, lots of participation. They're doing the work. So I wanted to do a Q&A with you today, and I have a question from Crystal, but I also have the two questions that I sent you earlier, and I'm just going to ask in this format so that everybody hears the question. I do want to try and keep it to 30 minutes today, guys. Still recovering. So let's start with so number one, Hoss, what would your advice be to agents in today's market, given the record low inventory, and how many more contacts it takes to actually get somebody on the phone? And then the follow-up to that is, when you're having a conversation during your prospecting calls or with a potential listing, and the concern is that they're giving up this, 3% interest rate for an 8% interest rate. How do you help them get past? I just had this conversation on a listing appointment this morning, so I'm interested to see how you would handle it compared to how I handled it. Okay. So the first part is the time commitment and how much longer it takes to get those calls, to get the amount, it's all numbers, right? To get the amount of people to have conversations with to actually get the listing, because inventory is so low and people are afraid of the interest rate. And then the interest rate conversation.
All right, so let's address the first question with low inventory. The thing is no matter what market we're in, you cannot let the market determine your success in your mind, in your actions. It's easy to look at interest rates and freak out. It's easy to look at inventory and freak out. And so what happens, you become paralyzed. So you want to get in the habit of not letting outside circumstances determine your internal dialogue. Dang, that was good. I just made that up. Write that down. You don't want to, yeah, you want to get in the habit, and I probably don't remember what I just said, but you want to get in the habit of not letting external circumstances determine your internal dialogue. Will somebody write that and send that to me? That's a good quote.
I've got it.
So because there's always external circumstances. Oh my gosh, Israel, war, interest rates, it's an election year. There's this. So like, you just gotta, you gotta be a skillionaire. Skillionaire is putting that shield on where it's just like, you get that shield. It's like none of that stuff penetrates your soul. It doesn't penetrate your spirit. Your goal is to not let your spirit be broken. In sales, it's important you have a spirit. And when you get negative and you get down, what happens really is the byproduct of those things is your spirit gets broken. And when your spirit's broken, you lose power. You lose control. Don't ever let your spirit be broken. You strap it on, grab your bootstraps, do what you got to do. And I've been in real estate 20 years. I've been in every market, every crash and every shift, and every one of those shifts, my business grew. And because of that mindset. So in today, let's take low inventory market, where one of the things I would do is how low is the inventory? See how many listings came on the market in your MLS yesterday. Oh my God, there's 40 listings came on the market. Like all you need is one of those. You with me? How many homes sold yesterday? How many? And so that puts things in perspective. When you say, oh, there's no inventory, there actually is. So those are things that will help, because the MLS is always a good place to go. You'll see that, people are listing, homes are selling. And so you want to be a standalone. You don't want to compare your insides to other people's outsides. You don't want to compare your results to other realtors. The best thing you could do is stop listening to fellow realtors. And in every market, realtors are the ones that complain. And so you just don't want to subscribe to that. Like I remember when the market crashed in 08, 09, I looked in the mirror and said, I am not participating in this recession. And that's important in any market, in any shift. It gives us the power and the control. Next is that's why you need to have time block from that 9 to noon, and it needs to be sacred, because that's the only thing you control is your actions in the now that will determine your success or failure in the future. So anxiety, stress comes from not taking action. It comes from not doing the work. Like if you didn't prospect this week, I bet you're anxious. You know, I talk to realtors every day, all day. So like, you know, I'm not guessing. Like I'm telling y'all, like if they're stressed and anxious, I know why, because they're not doing the work. Because when you're doing the work, what happens is you drown your thoughts in action. And so you want to drown your thoughts in action. And so what does that look like? Hey, if I go down, I'm going down in the Porsche. Like if I go down, it's not going to be for a lack of effort. If I go down, it's not going to be because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And so to me, I've always thought that way. Like, I don't care if I go broke. It ain't going to be for lack of work. And I'm okay with the outcome in that case. So like, you know, and that gives you that control. So you want to drown your thoughts in action. You want to remove thought as much as you can. Your thinking will always trip you up because you don't know what you don't know. Your mindset will always go to the path of least resistance. It will always go to the negative, because here's what happens. From that 9 to noon, you're going to be here, oh, but there's nowhere to go. Oh, but there's this. And like, that's what I mean by not letting that break your spirit. Like that needs to go in one ear and out the other. We don't internalize what we hear on the phone. We don't internalize the challenges that people are having. We don't bring our emotions into the conversation. We help them navigate through the current situation, whatever it is. So the thing that you control is your actions in the morning from 9 to noon, prospecting, having more conversations, getting better at it, and having more fun doing it, and removing your thinking during that time. And that's why it's so important that you do it every day, is because it becomes conditioned in you. Conditioned is where you want to get. You want to get to the point where this thing has muscle memory. Like you don't even got to think about it. You just do it. And it takes about 2 weeks of consistent effort to really get to that point where your confidence starts to grow. You know, you're starting to have conversations. I mean, like, you know, I'll give you an example. Like, I mean, if I could just show you guys the messages I get all the time, like, I mean, here's the conversation we're having, and here's the text message I got yesterday, right? Somebody bought a Porsche and says, not that I'm materialistic, but 10 months of calling expireds have been life-changing. Thankful for meeting you. Say hi to the newest member of the family. Level up. Like, you know, she's doing what I'm telling y'all to do. Right. And so when everybody else is saying there's no inventory, well, apparently there is. It's buying Porsches. And so that's why you need to not subscribe to that thinking, because you need to be more like that. And so the consistency is so important to that, because that's the thing that's going to help you sleep at night. And let's say what if somebody wants to, how do you stay consistent? You make it sacred. Well, what if they can't meet with me at 6 o'clock? Then everybody can meet with you at 6 o'clock. Everybody can meet with you after 12 o'clock noon. If it's not today, it's tomorrow. You need to protect that time at all costs. Now, am I saying don't get a listing at 11 o'clock? Maybe, but that doesn't even happen very often, where it's impossible for somebody to meet outside the 9 to noon hour. You with me? Like when you meet with them, it's because you gave them the option to meet at that time.
Boss, can I speak to that too?
Yep.
I think that when you have those conversations with your clients up front and you set the expectation in that initial meeting, that will help. That does help, not will. It does help to put some framework around the expectation and what your availability is. And, you know, I just had this conversation with another agent, who was told, you know, this agent, I love you. was driving clients around because they told her they absolutely just did not have any transportation, and they absolutely had to be out of their house by a certain period of time, which put a lot of pressure on her. And I think that the lesson that was learned is that people will push you to see what your limits are, and they will push your boundaries. And so it has to be sacred. And the one thing that I learned very early in my career is people who are going to consistently push your boundaries and not respect your time. Not all money is good money. And I'll just leave it at that.
Right. And you got to be in control, folks. This is the thing. You know, like I ride horses. I teach my daughter how to ride horses, and I'm a cowboy, so like I don't look like it, but I am, and like the thing about a horse is you got to be the boss. This thing weighs thousands of pounds. Like that horse instantly feels the energy of your fear. It feels, if you're anxious on a horse, it's going to treat you like that. And so if you're in control and you're confident and you don't have fear, that horse is going to respect you. You can do anything. You can make that thousands of pound animal do anything that you want. And it's the same thing with humans, is we got to be the boss. You got to be the listing boss. You got to be in control. That's why confidence is so important. Being direct. Those are so important because it's a control thing. And if you're in control, you're not going to get somebody that's going to be acting that way. I'm not saying be a jerk, just be in control. And nice people, it doesn't do you any good to be nice. Meaning, yes, we're all nice, but nice is not a sales strategy. In real estate, they need you to be direct. Be nice, but like, don't think that being the nicest person wins in real estate. You with me? Like, yes, be nice, but like a nice person's easy to control. A nice person is easy to say no to. So just turn up, some of you need to just turn down the nice meter a little bit. Like, stop telling people what they want to hear. Tell them what they need to hear. People are sitting there waiting for you to give them permission to move, is the reality of what's happening. You need to give them permission to sell their home in one of the greatest markets to sell a home. Here's the reality is right now, because I love, by the way, when y'all put on where you're from, I love all this because I see where you're from. We got Canada in the house, AZ in the house, PA, Arizona, and with all of these markets and all around the country, let me ask you, is right now the greatest time in the history of real estate to sell your house? Is it? Maybe 3 months ago would be better, but next best is now. Why? Because they all have equity. They have equity. I used to sell in a market where they had to bring money to the closing table. They had to sell things because they were upside down. That's a whole other challenge. So, but in this market, they all have equity. And so selling a home is a good idea in today's market because they have equity, the inventory is low, but they need you to give them permission to do it. They need you to have confidence in giving them the permission to do it. I mean, I'll give you an example. I'm about to move. You know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to sell my house. I'm going to rent it, but I could sell it. And I'm going to move to the country because I'm a cowboy. So I'm going to move out to Brenham, Texas. I'm going to buy acreage, and interest rates are high. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to post up for a minute. I'm just going to rent this, and then I'm going to go post up. I'm going to rent something for a year. I'm going to get into the community. I'm going to start meeting people. I'm going to find the land that I'm going to buy. I'm going to go to the person that has the land, and I'm going to create the deal. I'm going to let them do the little owner financing. I'm going to create the opportunity. And so that's where we are in this market, is you got to create the opportunity, but you also, it's not a transactional market. We are in a transformational market. They can sell their house today and have more money than they've ever had in the history of their life today. And they could sit and post up for a year and lease. That's okay. Give them permission to do it. Let's see what happens in 2024. The chances are that the market's going to shift a little bit. So take advantage of the market now to extract maximum equity. And I'm going to find you a place to post up for a minute. And then we are going to help you find that perfect home when the opportunity arises. And in that meantime, if they like, no, I want to buy something, then you marry the house and you date the rate. Marry the house, date the rate. They can always refi when interest rates go down, but get the house now. Get as much house as you possibly can. I think that's always a good thing. My biggest regret in real estate was I did not buy more real estate. I was selling houses 20 years ago. The average sales price was 180,000. Today, that house is worth 790,000. Right? If I would have known then what I know now, I would have been just buying all those houses up. But over time, real estate will always go up. And so you want to remember, that's why it's important that you're seen as their trusted advisor, because they want to move. They need to move. They just need you to give them permission to do it. Marry the house, date the rate. All right, Michelle, I'll stop. You go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to give you the next question.
Is this helping you guys? Okay.
See, lots of head nods. That's good. All right.
Head nods. Remove thought. That's right. You know what? Another thing I want to add while you're thinking of the next question. In everything you do, you'll meet the law of resistance. The law of resistance exists in everything that you do. The law of resistance, let's say if I go put my running shoes on now and I say, I'm going to go run 3 miles. The first quarter of a mile, here's my mind. Oh, it's cold outside. Oh my gosh, I don't like this song. What playlist is this playing from? My calves hurt. Oh no, man, I better hurry up because I got an appointment at 11 o'clock. Man, I wonder if I'll be able to get the 3 miles. This is human nature. I wonder if I'll be able to get the 3 miles in. And then I just keep going. And then the law of resistance is saying, no, stop, get back home. You got to take a shower. You got to get ready for the meeting. And like your mind's doing that. And so you got to get to the point where you get on the other side of the law of resistance, which is your first 10 calls, your first quarter mile. And then you get in flow state where you don't think, you just do. It's kind of like for all you athletes that are, one of the most effective things to do is like when anything that requires your mind and your body, like tennis, martial arts, basketball, tennis, or golf, any of those things. When you do those things, are you thinking? You're not thinking. If you're in a tennis match, you're not sitting there thinking about your meeting at 11, are you? And that's what happens in prospecting is you want to get on the other side of the law of resistance, you get in flow. And when you're in flow, it's like playing a tennis match. Your thought goes out the door. And that's where you want to get. And that's on the other side of your first 10 calls.
So I'm curious, guys, and feel free to come off mute. We have Haas here, so let's take advantage of it. I'm curious because I know what goes through my mind when I have to do something, when I have to, we talk about doing the hardest thing first. Yeah. I know what goes through my mind. What goes through your mind when when you're sitting down at your time block, you're getting ready to do your calls, or you're thinking about doing your calls, or, you're in your morning routine. What does law of resistance look like for you?
I just want to hurry and make those first 10 calls as fast as possible. And I want to outpace my thought. Okay. I want to run a little bit faster. So like, I don't have time to think. And like, I just want to get into it so I can get on the other side. And like, so I'm speeding through it, man. I'm just trying to get started. That's why every day at the moment at 9 o'clock, ding, 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 9 o'clock, boom, I'm dialing. I don't care if I'm not ready. I don't care if I don't have a drink. I don't care I'm just getting into it. You just got to get into it and get into it fast so you can outpace your thought. So just move faster during that time.
So I want to know from you guys, what does that look like for you? Shelly, Crystal, Greta. Shelly can't talk right now. Joe?
I know for me, like, the first call is always the hardest. Once you make that first call, it's a lot easier to just pick up the phone and keep dialing. And if you're having like a really hard time, something I found can be helpful is just like have a conversation with a friend and then make a call to someone you don't know and act like you're talking to your friend. Because it really helps make that conversation just kind of flow a little bit easier.
That's a nice hack.
Can I give you some advice on that? Yesterday, I was getting ready to go live, and I had like 300 people on a webinar. And so I got to bring my energy. I had 30 minutes. And here's what happened. I'm real protective of who I talk to before I go live. I don't need any Debbie Downers in my, coming into my mind and me talking to somebody that's negative. So like, I literally was supposed to call this guy back. And I go, no, he can wait, because I didn't feel like I would be energized from the conversation. You with me? Like, so, I'm not going to call my mom. No. Most of y'all don't call your mom. Don't call your dad. Don't call your family, right? Like, don't call the person that you always, complain with. And so protect who you talk to like that during that time. And then you'll be better for them and better for everyone out on the other side of your flow. And you'll be exhausted. I'm like, after I get off a webinar, y'all, like, I'm exhausted because I brought the energy. After prospecting for 3 hours, like, I gotta like get a juice boost, man. I gotta go have like an acai bowl or something, like go walk around the office, go walk around the block, just to shake it off, to step into the next phase of the day.
Hey.
So think about chunking real quick. Chunking. You have chunks of your day. Your day isn't just one day. There's chunks within the day. And that's why you got to do the hard thing first, is because the chances of you being consistent and doing the hard thing last, the chances of you doing it consistently are slim. That's why if you work out, you go to the gym. I don't think I've ever worked out at night in my life, right? It's always in the morning. Why? Because I don't like working out. Like, I'm not like, I'm fine having a dad bod. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need to look in the mirror and have a six pack. I just want to be healthy. But if I just do it at night, then I won't do it. If I prospect at night every day, I won't do it consistently. And so that's why it's important to do it the same day, same time, every day.
All right. Anybody else want to jump in before I go to the last question?
Hey, I'm not bashing moms, Christina. Okay. I'm just, we're not bashing moms. It's just family.
I'm joking with you.
But the same could be said for your kids. I'm not calling my daughter before I'm phone calls, okay? That's energy I don't need right now.
Yeah.
I just have an odd, maybe not odd, but I'm the mom of Greta and we work together. So we always call each other.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you're amazing at it though.
All right. So here's our last question. So Crystal, she purchased your book, Listing Boss. And what would you say is the biggest takeaway that this book would help her with? She's a brand new agent.
You read Listing Boss. That book could be called Mindset Boss. It could be called Life Boss. It's really about changing the way you think. So much of that book is about mindset, because I know for you to become a listing boss, I need to change the way you think. And so the reason I call it Listing Boss is because that's what realtors want, is listings. But really, I'm trying to change your life through listings. And so the takeaway is fall in love with the shifting of a mindset and owning your mindset and personal development and growing. And we have to grow. We have to become better. Like, if you listen to me on the phone, I mean, I had to like change the way I talk. I had to change the way that I thought. I had to change everything. I had to grow and build who I am today. I didn't go to college. I dropped out of high school twice. I'm from a small town in Missouri where like, nobody even leaves. Like when I moved to Dallas, Texas, and I was in a place where I didn't know a single soul. I remember when I first moved here, I said, I can be anybody I want to be in Dallas, Texas. And so your environment is important to becoming the best version of yourself. And so always be checking your environment, always be checking your mindset, always be going to work on those things. It sounds cheesy, but every day I listen to motivation. I do. I would rather listen to Jim Rohn. I'll listen to the Bible. I'll fall asleep listening to stuff. Just give it to me. I just want to bathe in the good word. And that's something that in a world that has so much negativity, there's so much to drag you down. You want to protect your mindset. Like, I have a friend of mine right now that literally has lost his ever living mind. And it's one of the most saddest things I've ever seen. Like, it's devastating. And he's gone complete psycho. And he was in a state hospital for 2 weeks. And like, and he's a narcissist, but you don't want to be that. But like, you got to protect that mind and protect who you are. That's why it's important to protect your spirit and not let anybody break your spirit. Like, somebody could speak to you in a way that you don't need to be spoken to. And like, it could break your spirit instantly.
All right, Haas, I'm going to stop you right there because you just touched on something that I think a lot of agents do struggle with, especially when they're doing calls like this. Not letting anyone break your spirit, and there's so much rejection in this business. So and Crystal's like, a lot of them are nodding their heads. How do you manage that rejection and not let your spirit get broken, not let it become demotivating or discouraging?
That's why you got to remove thought. It's not rejection. It's not, rejection creates opportunity. Well, I'm not going to list right now because interest rates are too high. Don't be like, oh gosh, oh no, yeah, I know he's right. Like, that's what I mean, is don't internalize those things. So like, like Zig Ziglar says, you got to your goal is to get through that 3 hours as being as positive, enthusiastic as you possibly can, and not letting anybody detour you from being positive and enthusiastic. And if you do, it's because you let them speak into you. Like, if somebody said, now's a terrible time to sell, you need to start training your mind to where you don't even hear that. That's what happens. You want to move faster than the dialogue. So like, keep your, that's what I mean. And I'm trying to explain this, but you want your actions and your conversation to outpace your thoughts, to where your thought doesn't even have time to creep in. So like, if I feel that way, then I'm already dialing that next person fast. Why? I'm outrunning my thought. I'm not thinking, I'm just doing. And so what happens is when you receive that, that's a mindset thing. You receive that negative thing, that message, or that, the objection, the rejection. Don't receive rejection, because they're not rejecting you ever. It's not about you. Don't take rejection personal. Keep your emotions out of it. Like, for example, if somebody throws some rejection, here's what I'll do. I'll crank up my D. So my directness, I'll be like, what do you mean now's not a great time to sell? Well, interest rates are 8%. Yeah, but you have more equity in your house today than you ever have before. Today is a great time to sell your property. I'm going to defend my message. I'm going to defend the market. And I'm not going to let them speak that to the universe, speak that to me, speak into me, or speak that into the market. I'm going to defend my message. And that's why, a nice person doesn't do that, right? They're like, okay, well, I'll try you back next month. Like, that's the person you don't want to be. You want to be like,
bother you.
What's that? What's
Don't
that?
bother you.
Yeah, don't ever say that. Don't ever say, I'm sorry to bother you, because don't ever say, hey, I'm sorry I'm late. Say, thanks for waiting on me. It's these things, right? That you want to, and that becomes conditioned in you from being consistent. Yes, go ahead.
And the only way you get to that conditioning is to do it over and over and over and over again. You have to do it.
Next. This is the cadence. Next. And don't put too much emphasis on one deal, one conversation, one listing. Next. And that's your actions outpacing your thought. Yeah, go ahead, Jackie.
I typically can get through that part, like, just by saying, like, I'm sorry if they say the interest rates, I typically say, I'm sorry you feel that way, but according to the market data in your area, the homes are only staying on for so long or whatever. But where I get stuck is like, well, yeah, if I sell, I can sell, but what am I going to buy? There's nothing on the market, so that's kind of where I'm like, I don't know what to say, because there's not too many homes on the market, that they're looking at in the, maybe in the range, location, you know. So how do you combat something like that?
I addressed that earlier, didn't I? About the leasing or right? That like so like in every market, you're gonna have a challenge. In every market. The challenge now is interest rates. So how do you combat that? There's different ways. I mean, if they want to sell, they have to sell. They got to get them to a point where they have one thing on their side. They have more equity in their home than they ever have before. So especially in 2024 being an election year, you know, it would be smart to just sit tight for a minute. It's okay to lease a house for a year. It's okay to see what happens. It's okay to buy a house at 8% and refinance it later on down the road. It's okay to do an owner finance deal. So these are things that you want to get creative. Like owner financing is something that is more important. I mean, you can, like 5% interest rate is typically what people are doing on owner finance. You know, not every deal, but like, let's get the home sold and post up. So like, that's what I would encourage them. And every situation's different. You know, and every market's different, but you want to give them permission to extract their equity now because they may or may not have that next year. You know, like what if the value of their home goes down and they lost $200,000 because they didn't want to, you know, take a loan at 8%. You know, so like that's why it's important to have more conversations too. So you want to have more conversations and not be dependent on one or two people. Like you want to have so many of these conversations every day that something's going to fall. You know, something's going to come through. And so that's why in this market, the thing you control is having way more conversations than you would in a market where it's easy. I think this market's better than the COVID market. I don't know about you, but I mean, I sold my business years ago, but like that whole COVID market, man, like when everybody's fighting over one house with 30 offers, like that is crazy to me. Like, and by the way, a lot of those people, they want to sell now too. The people that bought during COVID, I call it the COVID buyer remorse niche. You know, I'd be calling every single person that bought a house in your market during COVID because 44% of them are not happy with the purchase. They paid too much. They don't like their neighbors. They don't like the city that they live in. You know, they moved from California to here or wherever. And so I want you to think, like, especially I'm in Texas and you guys are in Arizona. It's the same thing too. Florida. Like we had people moving in to this place paying stupid amount of money on properties. And so they need permission to go ahead and sell, and they may have to pay the stupid tax, but that's okay. Like sometimes we got to pay the stupid tax, you know? But like, there's people out there everywhere right now that want to sell, and they're waiting for you to give them permission to do it. And I want to add one more thing too, because, and I know we're coming up on time, but one thing that you want to do to have more conversations with people, because I know that was one of the questions, how do you have more conversations? You want to make sure that the phone number you're calling from does not say spam risk, does not say telemarketer, does not, so here's how you do it. You want to get your phone number authenticated. So like if I call anybody right now, my caller ID is going to say Haas Pratt. If I don't have it authenticated, it's going to say spam risk or telemarketer. And so in today's world of telephonics, we want to be able to increase the chances of an answer. So these are things that are important. If I may send a text message, like if I've called somebody, you know what a good thing to do is? If you call somebody 2 times in a row, what happens? What happens if somebody calls you 2 times right now? They call you, you miss the call, and then they call you right back and it's a local number. I always answer the second. I don't know if it's my kid's school. I don't know if it's there was an accident. So those are the types of things that you need to adapt. Like in this market, when we're trying to get people on the phone, call them back 2 times, call them 3 times in a row, text them before you call them. After you call them 2 times, say, hey, I'm trying to reach you. Do you have a second? You're texting them. You're creating, you're setting the call up. And so you want to get creative in doing that. You can't just blast through calls with a phone number that says spam risk and be defeated because nobody answered their phone. You with me? Like, none of your competitors are calling a prospect 2 times in a row. Most of them have not got their phone number authenticated. And so most of them aren't texting, hey, I'm trying to reach you. Do you have a second? Like, you're not putting in there Susie Bucket with Keller Williams Realty, license number 470163. You know what I mean? Like, you want to be as personal as you possibly can. You want to connect with people in every way you possibly can. Even if you got to go on social media and send them a message on Messenger, I don't care. Like, get them in dialogue, get them on the phone. And that would be my advice in today's world of how do you reach more people, is you got to get more creative that way. Because if you just call one person with that, I mean, they don't know who you are. Like, again, we're not going to let that affect us. Right? I mean, the reality is you could send a video. I mean, I couldn't do that when I sold real estate. If I could send a video to expired and say, hey, this is Susie, this is Haas. I noticed your property came up expired in the MLS today. Hey, quick question. Are you still wanting to sell that home? Will you do me a favor? Let me know either way. All right. Take care. Have a great day.
Just talked about video yesterday.
That's so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
people respond to video.
Yeah, because it cuts through the clutter. And so you want to, and by the way, you will be alone in this. Nobody's cheering you on. Like, you're going to be the only one doing these things, but I want you to know that, like, this is the thing that you control is your actions. You want to, I always think about it like this. I shake every tree, look under every nook and cranny. I will look in the rocks. I will find the deal. I will dig, see, peel the onion layers away. Like, that mindset is important when we're trying to get a hold of people.
I think you guys have to remember too that it is a crazy time in the world, and it's a crazy time in the market, and there's a lot of media swirling around the real estate industry right now. And the people who are doing the work are the ones that are going to still be here on the other side of this. And there are the majority of agents are not going to do anything that we've done in this challenge. They're just not. It's too hard. They're going to quit. There's no immediate instant gratification. So stay the course and do the work, and the business will be yours. Haas, one last question for you. What are your book recommendations?
I was just wanting to answer that because we're the people business. So the one skill that we have to master is people skills. So this is an opportunity, when you're going through your calls and you're struggling or you're feeling that way, look, be grateful for the opportunity to master your people skills. Be grateful for the conversation because it's one more brick in the people skill wall. And so everything that you do is you want to learn how to master your people skills. And you can have no skills at all, but have people skills, and you'll be successful at everything. So in everything that you do and read, you want to, and this is great because this is like lifelong learning. Okay. Like, people change, humans don't change, but situations change, but it's people skills. And to master people skills, you have to master you first. Because if you have insecurities and you're intimidated, you're not going to master other people's intimidation. You're not going to master their own insecurities. And so that's why you got to go to work on yourself. You got to learn how to weed the garden to get rid of past trauma, limitations in ourselves. So we got to master ourselves. Why? So we can master other people. And so this whole thing really is about people skills. You're the first people and then the other people. So that's why you got to go to work on yourself. You got to be honest with yourself. Like, you can't, that's why we can't have excuses about anything. We got to be real. So in everything that we do is in personal growth and development, so we can help other people grow personally and develop. And that's the best part of real estate, is it's a platform for us to grow and to shed our skin like a caterpillar goes into a cocoon and comes out a butterfly. A snake sheds its skin is what we will always be doing. And every market creates this opportunity, and every season creates this opportunity. so we can better serve other people. And so the book recommendations are books that will help you do that. The best book on the planet for that is How to Win Friends and Influence People
I love
by
that.
Dale Carnegie. You should read that book over and over and over and over. There's no such sweeter sound than the sound of one's own name. Like these lessons in this book that you need to get in you, and you need to be conditioned to the message in that book, because everything in that book is people. You know, that's why a positive attitude is so important, because it's contagious. You know, and books that help remind you of that. How to Win Friends and Influence People. In fact, you guys have seen my library. I'm dyslexic. I don't read every book. I'll listen to books, but like, you know, I have not read every book in my library, but I just feel smarter walking into it. You know, it's like, but my favorite books are on mindset and people. And so I accumulated that library because I would ask, because I was an entrepreneur my whole life. I'm 42 now. Like I'm an old soul. I've been in business my whole life by myself. And I would ask people, what's the books that change your life? And the top 3 books that change people's life are, number 1 is always Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, is the book that has made the most people rich. So if you haven't read that book, I read that book over and over. Like you could do nothing but read these 3 books and like be extremely successful. Most books took from those books, right? These are like the Bible books. Everything's biblical, by the way. Okay. It's all biblical. Nothing's changed. There's nothing new under the sun. Next is How to Win Friends and Influence People. How to Win Friends and Influence People is a book that people need to read over and over and over and over again. And then the third book, it's a toss-up. The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. Anything Og Mandino writes is a great book. He's a phenomenal writer. And these are all people that are dead, by the way. The Richest Man in Babylon is a phenomenal book. The Richest Man in Babylon. And then Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. If you can just put all those books on your reading list. Outwitting the Devil is a book that Napoleon Hill wrote back in the 30s. And it goes against everything: school, education, the healthcare, government, all that stuff. So like he wouldn't publish it. And he goes, don't publish. And he had the manuscript. And he said, don't publish this book until I die. Well, he dies. His wife gets it. And she goes, I'm not going to release this thing because it was very controversial. And she goes, and so she died. And so then his kids got it and then partnered with Sharon Lecter, who is actually in my EXP organization. I recruited her and her husband to EXP. She put the book together and it's called Outwitting the Devil. And it's like a dream or a conversation that Napoleon Hill has with the devil himself. And you want to listen to that book on Audible because it's literally a conversation of Napoleon Hill talking to the devil talking about how he holds people back. How do you hold people back? Oh, I hold people back by habits. If I can get somebody smoking cigarettes, I can get them distracted and they will drift for their entire life. And it blows your mind. And it's drifting is what the devil uses to keep you from becoming the best version of yourself. You want to get to a point where you ain't drifting. And that book will bring that awareness. So like I recommend all those books. And all those books have to do with mindset and people. Another great book on sales, if you want to learn how to become a great salesperson, it's an old book, as all of them are, but it's How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling by Frank Bettger. Phenomenal book. Nobody even knows about that book. Here's another one. The Game of Life and How to Play It. Unbelievable book. Nobody even knows about that book. I've discovered that book at a seminar on a panel. One guy up there said, "What the best book I've ever read is The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn, who wrote the book in the 1800s. She's a woman, and she wrote this book in the 1800s. It's actually It's similar to Think and Grow Rich, but I think it's almost better. Like, it's an unbelievable book. And she wrote another book called Word is Your Wand. And you can go to Amazon and get all her books in one book. And I would learn from Florence Scovel Shinn and like get all of those, the messages and all those books I just gave you in you. If you have all of that in you, there's nothing that you can't do. And every other book that you ever read will come from some sort of all of those books. That's
Thank
a lot.
you.
That's more than one, but there you go. There's your reading.
That's okay.
Even on Audible too, y'all. I mean, you know, repurpose your time. Stop listening to KJO 105 on the way to work and listen to Audible, right? When you're on your run, train your mind to, that's how I do it. When I'm outside walking or running, I listen to the Audible books. And so you want to repurpose your time in order to get it all in. I knew we wouldn't make it to 30 minutes, Michelle. I'm sorry.
Okay, I say that every day and we never do. All right, guys. Any last thoughts before we let Haas go? This was good. Did you guys enjoy this? Yeah, good. Good. So next week, Haas, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about how we keep this momentum without this challenge. So,
how do you keep the momentum without this challenge? As you do
without the 30-day challenge will end, and how they're going to keep the momentum of the activities on the tracker and all the things they did in the 30-day challenge beyond the challenge.
Get to a point where you don't need a challenge, you don't need accountability, you don't need a coach, you don't need any of those things, because you decide. It's a decision. Decide. And on the other side of that decision, you know, if you decide that then you don't need anything else. So I would that's what I would do, is I would encourage you to decide to do it. Decide success. Decide to become the best version of yourself. Decide to succeed against all odds, for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones, for your friends. You know, the best thing you could do is become, for your community and your family, is to become the best version of yourself. And that is done in the desert alone.
Yep. Haas, thank you so much again. I appreciate you. I will talk with you tomorrow. And guys, don't forget to upload your trackers, and I will see you tomorrow for the last day of the third week.
Good job, you guys. Great job. Thank y'all.